Are you wondering whether it is truly possible to receive both a temporary increase to your Social Security check and a separate stimulus-style payment at the same time? Or whether that is just another confusing headline making the rounds online? There has been a tremendous amount of noise, a cascade of mixed messages, and understandably, a great deal of concern. When you rely on Social Security as part or all of your monthly income, even small changes can feel overwhelming, and the constant stream of information can be difficult to navigate. The goal here is not to hype anything up and not to dismiss real possibilities either. It is to explain what is actually being discussed, how it could affect you, and what is known right now using clear and honest information you can trust. Over the past several weeks, many seniors and people with disabilities have been asking the same question. Can someone on Social Security really receive both a temporary monthly increase that adds up to $1,200 and a separate $2,000 payment if both ideas move forward? The short answer is that yes, technically it could happen, but the longer explanation matters far more than the headline. Let us begin by slowing down and walking through each element carefully, because understanding the details is the first step toward managing expectations and making informed decisions. Let's start with the proposed $1,200 increase, because this is where much of the confusion originates. This proposal comes from legislation commonly referred to as the Social Security Emergency Inflation Relief Act. Despite how it is often described online, this is not a single lump sum payment. It is also not a permanent benefit increase. What the proposal outlines is a temporary boost of $200 added to your regular Social Security payment each month for 6 months in a row. When you add that up, $200 over 6 months equals $1,200 total, but it would arrive gradually, not all at once, and then it would end. According to the language in the proposal, this temporary increase would apply to people receiving benefits administered by Social Security. That includes retirees receiving retirement benefits, individuals receiving Social Security disability insurance, people on supplemental security income, survivors receiving survivor benefits, and those receiving spousal benefits. If this proposal were to pass and go into effect, the extra $200 would simply appear as part of your monthly payment during that 6-month period. This structure aims to provide ongoing support to help cover rising costs without permanently altering benefit formulas, but it also introduces complexity in how recipients perceive and plan for the assistance. Now, there is an important detail here that deserves careful attention. As written, this temporary increase would be paid from the Social Security Trust Fund itself. That raises concerns for many experts, and it is something you should be aware of. Social Security does not have unlimited funds. Without changes, the trust fund is projected to face serious shortfalls in the coming years, which could eventually lead to automatic benefit reductions if nothing is done. Using trust fund money to pay for a temporary increase could move that timeline closer. That does not mean helping people with inflation is wrong. Inflation has hit seniors and people with disabilities especially hard. Groceries, utilities, medications, and housing costs have all risen faster than many benefits. The concern is not about whether help is needed. The concern is about how that help is funded and whether short-term relief could create long-term risk for the program millions depend on. The Social Security Trust Fund is primarily financed through payroll taxes, and its solvency has been a topic of intense debate for decades. Drawing from it for temporary relief without a plan for replenishment could accelerate the depletion date, potentially causing broader instability for future beneficiaries. This tension between immediate aid and fiscal sustainability is at the heart of many policy discussions, and it underscores why legislative progress is often slow and fraught with compromise. Inflation itself has been a relentless challenge over the past few years, eroding the purchasing power of fixed incomes. For Social Security recipients, the annual cost of living adjustment is designed to mitigate this. but many argue that it fails to keep pace with actual expenses, particularly in categories like healthcare and housing. The cost of living adjustment is based on the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, which may not accurately reflect the spending patterns of older adults or those with disabilities. This disparity has fueled the push for additional support, such as the temporary increase proposal. However, any solution must balance immediate needs with the long-term health of the Social Security system. It is also worth noting that inflation affects different regions and households unevenly, making a uniform increase both a helpful tool and a blunt instrument. For those struggling to make ends meet, even a temporary boost can provide meaningful relief, but the uncertainty of its duration adds another layer of financial anxiety. Now, let's talk about the separate $2,000 payment that has also been discussed. This is often referred to as a stimulus check, a rebate, a dividend, or a distribution. While the names vary, they generally point to the same idea. This would be a one-time payment, not a monthly benefit increase. Unlike the temporary Social Security boost, this proposal is tied to revenue from tariffs, meaning money collected through trade-related fees rather than Social Security funds. This distinction is very important. If such a payment were approved, it would not come out of the Social Security Trust Fund. That means it would not directly affect the long-term finances of Social Security itself, based on how previous stimulus payments were handled. Social Security recipients could be included along with many other Americans, depending on income rules and eligibility requirements that would need to be finalized. Historically, stimulus payments during economic crises have been funded through general government revenue or borrowing, and this proposal follows a similar pattern by using tariff revenues. This separation of funding streams is key to understanding why both proposals could, in theory, coexist. Tariffs are taxes on imported goods, and their revenue has been proposed as a source for various public initiatives. The idea of using tariff money for direct payments to citizens is not new, but it has gained traction in certain policy circles. However, the stability and sufficiency of tariff revenue can be volatile, depending on trade volumes and international relations. This uncertainty adds another layer of complexity to the proposal. Moreover, past stimulus payments, such as those issued during the pandemic, were broadly distributed based on income thresholds, and Social Security recipients were typically included if they met the criteria. If a new $2,000 payment is authorized, it would likely follow similar guidelines, but until legislation is drafted and passed, specifics remain unclear. The administrative process for issuing such payments would involve multiple federal agencies, including the Treasury and the Social Security Administration, which could lead to delays or confusion if not carefully coordinated. It is also possible that eligibility could be expanded or restricted based on political negotiations, making it essential to follow official announcements rather than speculative reports. So here is where the two ideas come together. Because these proposals are funded from different sources and structured in different ways, there is no rule that automatically prevents someone from receiving both. One would be a temporary monthly increase tied to Social Security, and the other would be a one-time payment funded separately. On paper, it is possible. However, this is where we need to bring expectations back to a realistic place. While it is technically possible for both proposals to pass, it would be unusual for Congress to approve both at the same time. Lawmakers may choose one approach, delay both, or move forward with neither. At this moment, nothing has been passed into law. These are still proposals, and proposals can change, stall, or disappear entirely. The legislative process is fraught with negotiations, compromises, and shifting priorities, especially in a divided political environment. Therefore, while the dual possibility exists in theory, the practical likelihood is tempered by budgetary constraints and political will. For any proposal to become law, it must navigate a complex journey through committees, votes in both the House and Senate, and ultimately receive the president's signature. Along the way, amendments can alter the original intent, funding mechanisms can be revised, and support can wax or wane. The Social Security Emergency Inflation Relief Act, for instance, has been introduced but not yet advanced significantly. Similarly, proposals for a $2,000 stimulus payment have been floated but lack concrete legislative text. This stagnation is common for many well-intentioned ideas, and it underscores the importance of patience and skepticism when hearing about potential benefits. Advocacy groups play a crucial role in keeping these issues alive, but they cannot guarantee outcomes. The timeline for legislative action is unpredictable, often influenced by broader economic conditions, election cycles, and public pressure. As a result, it is vital to monitor reliable sources for updates rather than relying on social media or sensational news snippets. There is some genuine momentum right now around helping seniors and people with disabilities. Many lawmakers from both parties have acknowledged that inflation has strained fixed incomes. Discussions about benefit adjustments, changes to cost of living calculations, and broader Social Security reform are ongoing. The fact that these conversations are happening matters, but conversation alone does not put money in your account. It is important not to make financial decisions based on money that has not been approved. It is understandable to hope for relief, especially when prices keep rising. But until something passes both chambers of Congress and is signed into law, no payment is guaranteed. In the current political climate, bipartisanship is rare, and any proposal affecting spending or social programs faces intense scrutiny. Advocates for seniors are pushing for action, but countervailing forces emphasize fiscal responsibility or alternative priorities, creating a dynamic where progress is often incremental and uncertain. If you are forced to choose between the two ideas, many people say they would prefer the $2,000 one-time payment. It is a larger amount and arrives all at once, which can help with urgent expenses like medical bills, home repairs, or paying down debt. Others prefer a steady monthly increase, even if it is temporary, because it can help with budgeting for ongoing costs like groceries and utilities. In reality, the choice does not belong to us. It belongs to lawmakers, and the outcome will depend on political negotiations, funding decisions, and priorities that are still being debated. This dichotomy highlights the tension between immediate relief and sustained support, a balance that policymakers struggle to achieve. From a psychological perspective, a lump sum can feel more substantial and empowering, allowing for larger purchases or debt reduction, while a monthly boost can reduce anxiety over recurring bills and provide a sense of stability. However, both approaches have drawbacks. A lump sum may be spent quickly without addressing long-term needs, and a temporary increase may end just as financial pressures persist. There's another issue tied closely to this discussion, and it deserves honesty. Social Security needs reform. That phrase can sound frightening because it often brings fears of benefit cuts. But doing nothing also leads to cuts. Without changes, the program faces automatic reductions in the future. Reform does not have to mean harming beneficiaries, but it does mean making decisions that ensure the program can continue paying full benefits long-term. Right now, there are many different reform ideas being discussed, some more reasonable than others. There is no clear agreement yet, and that uncertainty adds to the anxiety many people feel. Comprehensive reform might involve adjusting the payroll tax cap, modifying the retirement age, or changing the cost of living calculation formula. Each option has proponents and detractors, and reaching consensus will require difficult compromises. For example, one proposal is to raise the payroll tax ceiling so that higher earners contribute more, thereby bolstering the trust fund. Another idea is to gradually increase the full retirement age to reflect longer life expectancies. Yet another suggestion is to adopt a more accurate measure of inflation for cost of living adjustments, such as the Consumer Price Index for the elderly. These changes are controversial and evoke strong emotions from all sides. The debate is not just about numbers, it is about values, equity, and the social contract. For current beneficiaries, the fear is that reform will diminish their hard-earned benefits. For younger workers, there is concern that the system may not be there for them when they retire. Navigating these worries requires transparent dialogue and evidence-based policy. What matters most is staying informed without being overwhelmed and separating confirmed facts from speculation. If you are a senior living on a fixed income, watching grocery bills climb while your benefits barely keep pace, your concerns are valid. If you're receiving Social Security disability insurance and trying to support a family while costs rise, your stress is real. If you are a widow or widower managing grief alongside financial worry, you deserve clarity and compassion. You should not have to decode complicated legislation just to understand whether help might be coming. Practical steps you can take include reviewing your budget, exploring local assistance programs, and staying engaged with reputable news sources. Avoid making major financial changes based on rumors, and consider consulting with a financial advisor if you have specific questions about your situation. Community organizations and senior centers often provide resources and support, and connecting with others in similar circumstances can reduce feelings of isolation. So, let's return to the main question one last time. Could someone on Social Security technically receive both a temporary $1,200 increase spread over 6 months and a separate $2,000 payment if both proposals passed? Yes, it is possible because they are different programs with different funding sources. But as of now, nothing has been approved and no payment dates exist. The most important thing to remember is this: stay cautious with headlines, look for confirmation, not excitement, and do not count on money until it is officially signed into law and scheduled. We will continue to follow these developments closely and explain what changes, what stays the same, and what it means for you calmly and clearly. You are not alone in trying to make sense of all this. Many people are asking the same questions, and it is okay to feel uncertain. Take things one step at a time. Focus on what is confirmed today and let the rest unfold as it does. When there is real action, you will hear about it in clear terms without pressure or exaggeration. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and please take care of yourself.